Here are the top 10 shields in Dark Souls that you need to know about, plus one bonus shield right at the end that isn't actually a shield but still outperforms most of the others. Number 10. The Sanctus is a standard shield that can be obtained by defeating Paladin Leroy's invasion just at the end of the Tomb of the Giants. In order to wield the shield, you will need 10 levels in strength and 18 in faith, which can limit its use somewhat. You can still use the shield if you don't meet the faith requirements, but it will reduce the stability of the shield. At an initial glance, this shield may not look like anything special. It does have a 95% physical damage reduction, but is lacking when it comes to magic, fire and lightning reduction. But it does have a few handy tricks up its sleeve. Firstly, when equipped, the Sanctus will restore 2 HP per second, even when it is worn on your back. This won't be particularly helpful in negating damage during fights, however it will slowly build your health bar back up while exploring. Secondly, not only does the Sanctus have a 90% bleed build-up resistance while blocking, it also has a 100% curse build-up resistance while blocking. Compared to the other standard shields, it does have very high durability at 410, as opposed to the usual average of 250, making it very unlikely to break. The base stability for the Sanctus is 51, going up to 63 when fully maxed out, which is around the average for all the shields in Dark Souls. And finally, the Sanctus weighs 3 units, which is just below average for the other standard shields. Overall, this shield is extremely useful for any bleed or curse fights, and for any occasions where you'll be exploring and want to build back up some life without using any Estus flasks. Number 9. The Grasscrest shield is one of my personal go-to shields, as it can be obtained extremely early on in the game, and is located at the bottom of the Darkroot Garden, near to the Black Knight wielding a halberd. The Grasscrest shield only requires 10 levels in strength, meaning that all but 2 starter classes can wield this shield from the get-go, and those remaining 2 classes only need to add 1 additional level if they wish to use it, making the shield very accessible early on. This shield has a very OP ability in that it will increase your stamina regen by 10 points per second, which is around 22.5% of your base stamina regen. As with the Sanctus, this effect will also work when the shield is on your back, freeing up your hands to two-hand your weapon of choice for some extra damage. Other than this, the shield has a respectable 95% physical damage reduction and 70% fire damage reduction. It also boasts a 90% bleed build-up resistance while blocking, but it does have a lower than average durability of 200. And while this isn't much below the average, it does mean it could break earlier than your average shield. Stability-wise, the Grasscrest has the same specs as the Sanctus, with a base stability of 51 going up to a maximum of 63 when fully upgraded. The weight of the Grasscrest shield is 3 units, so again, just below average for other standard shields. For me, the Grasscrest shield, along with the Heater shield, is one of 2 early game shields that I always utilise on my playthroughs. Just on the stamina regeneration increase alone, this shield seals the deal for me. Number 8. Talking of the Heater shield, this is my number 1 go-to early game shield, and has on many occasions seen me through the entire game. The Heater shield comes as standard for anyone choosing the warrior class, but can also be purchased from the undead merchant in the Undead Burg for 1000 souls. What makes this shield stand out for me is not only is it the lightest 100% physical damage reduction shield, rocking in at 2 weight units, but it is also the only 100% physical damage reduction shield with a fast parry animation speed, making this shield the perfect companion for anyone who likes to bat off enemy attacks. The Heater shield only requires 8 points in strength to wield, meaning it can be used by every starter class from extremely early on in the game. As the name implies, the Heater shield also has a respectable 70% fire damage reduction, making it especially useful for some of the game's earlier bosses, such as the Bell Gargoyles and the Chaos Witch Quelaag. Having a base stability of 55 and top end of 68 makes the Heater shield slightly above average for its class, and with 250 durability puts this shield on par with its counterparts. All in all, the Heater shield is a fantastic shield for the first half of the game, and with it having the fast parry animation also makes it extremely useful for new players getting used to the parry mechanic, and still having the higher defense compared to the smaller shields. Before we move on to the next one, if you are enjoying the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and ring that bell to make sure you don't miss out on even more Dark Souls content. Number 7. Talking of parrying, next up is the Target Shield, which is one of only 2 shields along with the parry daggers that have the special parry animation speed. All weapons usually have 6 frame parry window, but these 3 have 8 frames, plus an increased 19 frame recovery window, making this the perfect shield for those trying to learn how to parry. However, with this super safe parry does come some drawbacks. As this is a small shield, it does only have 150 durability, which to be fair, is around average for small shields. The base regular stability is 45, going up to 56 when maxed out. To wield the Target Shield, you only need 8 levels in strength and 11 levels in dexterity, meaning with a few additional points in dexterity, most players will be able to utilise this shield from very early in the game. The Target Shield comes as standard for anyone that picks the Thief starter class. It can also be found on a body inside a small room in the lower Undead Burg, just before the Capra Demon boss fight. Additionally, there is also a 1% chance it will drop from an Undead Assassin, also known as the Hollow Thief, located in the lower Undead Burg. Number 6. The effigy shield is a standard shield that sports the highest cumulative damage reduction out of all the small and standard shields. Not only that, but it also has the highest lightning damage reduction of any shield in the entire game, at a shocking 90%. It is one of the heavier small shields, weighing in at 3 units, but this is nothing in the grand scheme of things. The effigy shield is found on a corpse in Tomb of the Giants, on a path close to the second bonfire. The plateau with the 2 skeleton beasts and a skeleton archer has a slope leading down. Take a right to find a corpse with the shield on. In order to wield this shield, you will need 10 levels in strength and 16 in faith. And as with the Sanctus, this shield can be used without the faith requirement, but the stability will be reduced. With 180 durability, this small shield is above average of its counterparts, so will last a little bit longer before it will potentially break. Coupling a 90% physical damage reduction and 90% lightning damage reduction, this shield is the perfect choice when dealing with the Anor Londo Bell Gargoyles, Ornstein and Smaug, and even the Sanctuary Guardians in the DLC. Number 5. The Crystal Ring Shield, along with Hav's Great Shield, take the top spot for having the highest magical damage reduction of 90%. Not only that, but this shield has a unique attack that replaces its parry, whereby pressing the L2 or R2, depending on which hand it's in, launches out a vertical magical disc that will strike your enemies at range. One downside to this special attack is that it will use up 4 durability points, and as the shield only has 120 to start off with, you will need to make sure you don't get too trigger happy. On the plus side, the Crystal Ring Shield only requires 10 levels in strength to wield, making it very accessible for all players, especially those wanting to dabble in a little magic without having to commit any levels into intelligence. In order to obtain the Crystal Ring Shield, you will need to make a plus 10 small shield and ascend it with the soul of the Moonlight Butterfly with the giant blacksmith in Anor Londo, meaning that you won't be able to access this weapon until you reach the midway point of the game. This shield, while relatively low in stability, is a must-have for dealing with any magic foes. Plus, having the ability to launch magic discs at your enemies is just too hard to say no to. Number 4. The Black Knight Shield is the number 1 fire damage reduction shield in Dark Souls, with a scorching 95% fire damage reduction, alongside a 100% physical damage reduction, makes this a top choice for the majority of the game. When the shield is maxed out, its stability is on par with most Great Shields at 74 stability. As it weighs 6 units, it is the heaviest standard shield in the game, but compared to the Great Shields, it is a big weight save, and it has the standard 250 durability of the other standard shields. Obtaining this shield can be tricky though, as there is only a 5% drop rate when you kill any of the Black Knights located throughout the game. To wield the Black Knight Shield, you will need to have 16 points in strength, so pretty easy to achieve, especially for strength builds, who will well exceed this stat in no time. Not only is the Black Knight Shield extremely effective against physical and fire enemies, it looks pretty cool too. Number 3. The Crystal Shield is an extremely underrated shield. It blocks 100% of poison, toxin, and bleed, and has 100% physical damage reduction, along with 60% magic, 80% fire, and 80% lightning damage reduction. Couple this with 250 durability and 60 stability, makes this shield a solid choice for any scenario that you may face. The only drawbacks with the Crystal Shield is the fact that it can't be repaired or upgraded, but as you can purchase it from Domhnall of Xena for 4,000 souls as often as you want, you just need to make sure you always have a spare in case you accidentally lose track of how much durability is remaining. One other slight with the Crystal Shield is that it cannot be used to parry, and instead has a bash attack like most Great Shields. Overall, the Crystal Shield does have a couple of drawbacks, but for the most part, it is a fantastic shield that will see you right. Plus, as it only requires 14 levels in strength, this makes it easily accessible for most players and builds. Number 2. The Great Shield of Artorias is a beast of a Great Shield, weighing in at 16 units. It will provide you with 100% build-up reduction from bleed, poison, toxic, and even curses. On top of that, you get 100% physical damage reduction, and 80% fire damage reduction too. But on the flip side, it will only reduce magic damage by 50% and lightning damage by 40%. In order to wield, you will need a hefty 34 levels in strength, but you do get a Great Shield that has a whopping 600 durability and 88 stability, the highest stability of any non-crystal shield in the entire game. As with most Great Shields, you are unable to perform a parry, but can bash into your enemies to stagger them. In order to obtain the Great Shield of Artorias, you will need to get a plus 10 shield and ascend it with the Soul of Sif at the Giant Blacksmith in Anor Londo. If you are willing to put the points into strength, this is a must-have shield, and will see you right in pretty much every scenario in Dark Souls. Number 1. We couldn't exactly have a list of the top 10 shields in Dark Souls and not mention the granddaddy of them all, the Hav Great Shield. This shield weighs a hefty 26 units and has the second highest durability of all the shields in Dark Souls at 500, only outdone by the Great Shield of Artorias with 600 durability. So like the Artorias shield, you really won't have to ever worry about it breaking. And couple this with 84 stability will mean that this shield can withstand almost any barrage of attacks that your enemies have in store for you. Being such a chonker of a shield, does mean you will need 50 levels in your strength stat to wield it. The Hav Shield has a very special ability, and if you press the left trigger and right trigger, then it will trigger a stone skin buff that lasts for 30 seconds. This buff will increase your poise and appears to make enemies stagger when they hit you. The only downside of this special is that it does consume 300 of your shield's 500 durability, meaning you will only be able to unleash this handy move once between repairs. The Hav Shield has some of the highest damage reductions of all the shields, with 100 physical damage reduction, 90 magic damage reduction, which is the highest in the game alongside the Crystal Ring Shield, 80 fire and 80 lightning damage reduction, making this shield an almost impenetrable barrier against any attack. It can be obtained from a chest located in Anor Londo, in the basement behind the illusory wall in the fireplace, alongside the full Hav armor set and weaponry. The Hav Great Shield is not only iconic, but it does exactly what you would expect from such an over-the-top honker-chonking Great Shield. And other than its heavy weight, which can be easily countered with the Hav Ring, has 0 negatives, making this one of, if not the greatest shield in the entire game. Special bonus! Most would think that the Dark Hand is a right-handed fist weapon that has the special ability to steal humanity from other players and NPCs, but when wielded in the left hand, it will act as a shield. As a shield, it has 80% damage reduction in all 4 damage types: physical, magical, fire and lightning. As it only weighs half a unit, this makes it as light as the small leather shield, which is the lightest shield in the entire game. This does come with a drawback though, as the Dark Hand does only have 30 stability, making it the worst for this stat on my list. However, fear not, as the Dark Hand does have 999 durability, making it nigh on unbreakable. If facts and numbers aren't the be all and end all, then the Dark Hand still has you covered, as not only does this weapon have a great special, it also has a really cool unique parry animation, and if this alone doesn't sell this to you as a shield, I don't know what will. The Dark Hand can be obtained from Karth when joining the Dark Wraith Covenant, or it can be found as a rare 1% drop when killing the Dark Wraith enemies. The Dark Hand is not only a very well-rounded small shield alternative, it could be argued that this is the best shield in the game. It has the highest durability available, solid damage reduction stats across the board, and is hidden when not actively blocking, helping to offset its very low stability negative. This shield just radiates cool, and perfectly encapsulates the essence of Dark Souls as a whole. And for now, that's it. Let me know in the comment section below what your favourite shields are. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Dark Souls content.